chapter, we'll discuss some of what happens if a consumer has a complaint against a real estate licensee and the systems in place to assist a consumer who has sued a licensee but has been unable to collect a judgment against that licensee. When a consumer feels that a licensee has treated him or her unfairly, the consumer may file a complaint with the real estate board, which can be done through the board's website. The board will first review the complaint to see if the board has the authority to investigate the matter and whether the allegation constitutes a violation. For instance, suppose a buyer was a customer of a licensee who was acting as agent of the seller. Suppose also that after the purchase has closed, the seller tells the buyer that the seller told the broker that the seller might have been willing to accept a lower price. If this buyer were to file a complaint, as long as the required agency disclosures were made, even if the allegation was true, there was no violation of the law or regulations, since the broker was required to maintain the seller's confidentiality. If the investigation determines that a violation may have occurred, the complainant and the respondent may be offered an informal fact-finding conference known as an IFFC. A member of the board will hear the testimony of the claimant, the respondent, and any witnesses. The board member could dismiss the case or allow the licensee to enter a consent order. If no consent order is achieved, the matter can go to a formal hearing under the Administrative Process Act. A hearing will be held by a hearing officer appointed by the Virginia Supreme Court. What amounts to a trial will take place. If the licensee is found guilty of a violation, sanctions can range from a fine of up to $1,000 per violation and suspension, revocation, or denial of the renewal of the license. The decision may be appealed to the Court of Appeals. Another way that the real estate board tries to protect the public is through the Transaction Recovery Fund. The purpose of the fund is so that if a consumer sues a licensee and gets a judgment against that licensee, but cannot collect the judgment, the consumer can file a claim against the recovery fund for reimbursement. The board makes every effort to maintain at least $400,000 in this fund at all times. The Transaction Recovery Fund is financed through assessments against real estate licensees. Every new licensee is required to pay a fee of $20 that goes into this fund. If the fund stays at or above the $400,000 minimum balance, no further assessments must be paid by the licensee. If the fund balance drops below the minimum balance, licensees can be assessed an additional $20 every 2 years. That would usually happen with each renewal, although the board can also levy the $20 assessment against all licensees at the same time. There are two aspects of the Transaction Recovery Fund that circumvent the normal disciplinary procedures where a licensee is entitled to a hearing prior to any suspension or revocation of their license. First, if a licensee fails to pay the assessment, his or her license will automatically be suspended until such time as the assessment is paid. Second, if a claim is paid out of the fund because of the actions of a licensee, the person's license will automatically be revoked without any hearing. That person cannot reapply for a license without repaying the fund all monies paid plus interest. Also, there are certain groups of people or firms which are not allowed to file a claim against the fund. This would include any real estate licensee, the spouse or child of the licensee against whom the judgment was awarded, any financial or lending institution, and any person involved in the construction or development of real property. There are limits to how much a consumer can receive in compensation from the fund. The maximum payment to any one claimant is $20,000, and the maximum payment to all claimants from any one transaction is $100,000. In order to receive these payments, the consumer must first sue the licensee and obtain a court judgment against that licensee. The consumer must then take all appropriate legal actions to collect the judgment against the licensee. This could include determining all assets of the licensee, including real and personal property, and getting court orders to force their sale, investigating any listings held by the licensee to determine potential commission income, filing a claim in bankruptcy court if the licensee files for bankruptcy, and requiring the licensee to answer debtor interrogatories if necessary. The consumer could then file a claim against the Transaction Recovery Fund for any remaining balance due on the judgment, up to the maximum claim amount. This claim must be filed within 1 year of the date of the judgment.